This is Kurt Brown, also known as Saint Rambone, former investigative journalist and also a federal bank examiner for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. I'm here to talk today about if things were turned up on their head, meaning if we did not know what was going on in the world. It's a very good question. I was born the year before the Tsar Bomba, alleged Tsar Bomba, which occurred in 1961, the largest blast in the history of the world, and alleged to be an atomic or nuclear or hydrogen bomb, as they put it. I don't necessarily believe this. I suspect something else and much more. In 1961, late 1961, they had that blast. I spoke to someone who was from a nation near, I think it was Sweden, or perhaps another nation over in that area, Norway, or maybe even it was Denmark. But they told me they heard the Tsar Bomba, the ground actually rumbled there. Now how true that is, I don't know. This is an actual eyewitness account. I'll be putting links on this video. You can look on the side to verify all these things I'm saying here today. Also to kind of fill in points. In 1961, late 1961, they had the first blast. I suspect mind control. I suspect the first of that blast was not actually initiated by the USSR. Could be 50% probability. I believe that something else had happened, and there were many enemies in the world, people who want to take over the earth and so forth. And it's my belief that they used perhaps some of Nikola Teslas works to take over the earth using the energy from Tsar Bomba, or the alleged Tsar Bomba, and by doing so they would have control of people's minds, perhaps the entire earth, or perhaps just at key points so they could take over things. And the reason I say this, in 1962 they had the first casino in the United Kingdom. I consider casinos to be predatory capitalist ventures. I do not see the United Kingdom putting casinos in their country unless they were taken over by someone, or perhaps someone in the ruling elite became extremely corrupted. And that's probably what happened, in the sense that Tsar Bomba opened the door for this. In 1963, they had the last Aldermaston March to protest nuclear weaponry or nuclear manufacturing near London, UK. In 1963, they started this in 1958. So in 1963, they made them stop the Aldermaston marches. I believe it's probably because someone in the UK had basically a bomb pointed to their head, and they said, if you don't stop, we will stop you. Or perhaps they just took over the entire government and pretty much forced people not to do it anymore. In 1964, the Vietnamese War started in earnest for the United States. There were many things that happened in 1964, but soon they were accelerating the draft, pushing for people to go over to Vietnam to fight. I believe it was nothing more than possibly mind control, the hatching of people to pieces, and then just another facet of taking over the earth. So to review, in 1961, around November, Tsar Bomba exploded, allegedly, to the north of the USSR. In 1962, the first casino in the UK. In 1963, the last Aldermaston March. In 1964, the Vietnam War. This is very pertinent, because I think the United States is going under. As far as what I see in my own life, I often am harassed. I don't believe it's going under completely. I do think we still have some control. We'd be starving to death or possibly thrown into concentration camps. But I see this happening more and more. The government tried to put me away forever after working at the FDIC, where I left there in 2000, and I started doing investigative journalistic work in 2001, investigating government crimes in finance and medicine. To review also, in 1991, the FDIC passed the FDIC Act, which allows for the FDIC to put your banks under what they have there as an early resolution clause. Beware of the FDIC Act of 1991. I think it should be repealed. I'll get to this why later. In 1999, the Financial Services Modernization Act came into place, it allowed banks to take on other services other than being banks. As a former bank examiner, I know this would make things extremely complicated because now, supposedly, they're basing their bank insurance rates based just on risk. How do you judge risk when there's collusion and corruption everywhere you go? You cannot. In 2001, I was under attack. I started being attacked by the federal government or syndicates in the streets. The federal government ignored my cries for help. Instead, I was attacked further on 4/3/2001 where Sheriff Jack Tillman took my gun permit after I'd run a test to catch him in food funds thievery. Instead of them hearing my warnings, I was run out of town basically. I was basically arrested then in 2001 in Los Angeles, just moving with my belongings. I was injected and basically tortured, given a stroke, because I was injected in 2001 and 2004, but I had a stroke. I also had a severe memory loss until 2011 involving fights and such, obvious fights inside the banking industry in California with innocent people in their subdivisions possibly being attacked and other things. If you look now at the links on this article, you will find where I have linked things that relate to the number of bank failures. This is on the FDIC website, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation website, which is in fact a federal agency. The FDIC has shut down many banks lately. It's accelerated since 2010 and 2011. It is amazing how many banks have failed. I know that in 2008, Wachovia Bank was shut down. In 2009, Wells Fargo had to pay $1.2 billion. In 2010, Wachovia had to pay close to $200 million. I think it was like $160 million. But the Wells Fargo fine got me $1.2 billion. I think it was rigged from the inside the bank with federal banking regulators and possibly judges. This goes back to mind control again. Back in late 1961 in Tsar Bomba, Nikola Tesla, who I did not know about, had actually theorized that he could control people's minds using various Hertz, or basically the Hertz that your human mind works at. Now, you might find this far-fetched, but there was actually a stun gun out. I actually read about it back around 2000, 2001. There was a stun gun that was available that would actually stun the human mind, and it was taken off of the market. It worked at about the same Hertz as a human mind, but it was taken off the market because probably of complications and fears of severe injury. Perhaps if someone had a stroke already, such as myself, they can make it extremely bad. The federal government has not acknowledged the stroke they did to me, and neither has the Flagstaff Medical Center. It was another place I was injected. I've talked about this extensively at my website titled Mobile Audit Club. You can find it by internet search. Probably find many other stories and such out there. My memory came back in 2011. Much of my writings will be different after 2011. I was basically in a sort of coma with a diagnosed stroke in 2004 up through 2011. I say a sort of coma because many memories are gone. They would come and go. I'd often forget that I even had the stroke, but it was diagnosed in 2004. So if you see the link that's on the side of this news post, you will find all of this proof. I will put that over there so it'll be easy for you to follow. Mind control is very interesting to me. How would you override this if the Tsar Bomba, or that huge explosion that could have been even generated from the power in the Earth and in the ionosphere or the atmosphere of the Earth, particularly because they did it near the North Pole, and Nikola Tesla talked about running things along longitudinal lines, and if you were to go to the North Pole and catch the ions that are coming in from the pole and going around the Earth and going down, you could actually accelerate possibly somehow and catch into this. I might be wrong. This is pure theory. I am a bit of a theoretical scientist myself. I'm trained more in medicine, but I have recently started studying much more physics and electrical engineering related items, particularly because of my interest in Nikola Tesla and his work. I was actually hit with a Tesla coil one time that wasn't grounded correctly. I was at a high school in Alabama, I was in the 9th grade. Everyone was told to line up and put their hands on the coil, and when they did so, well, they not put their hands on the coil, they were told to touch the lightning from the coil, and I walked up and I put my hand on the coil itself. I had a severe shock in my right arm, or was it the left? One of my arms, but I felt like I was vibrating horribly, and very strange experience happened to me after that. If you're ever around a Tesla coil, I recommend you not to actually touch it, particularly the coil if it has to be in a science class in Alabama. It might not be grounded. Whoa, baby. Talking about making Kurt dance in the dirt. So there we have it. Tsar Bomba, what was that about? Could they have taken over the earth? Is this why the United States is so messed up and why all the banks are going broke and why all these laws are written? Also, John F. Kennedy, or what was his name? One of the Kennedys, President Kennedy, was shot right about that time also. I think it was in 1963, if I'm not mistaken. 62 or 63, something like that. There were a lot of other people killed down in the Bay of Pigs invasion. I think America was turned up on its head. Why would we be invading Cuba, and why would Cuba be putting nuclear bombs at our feet? Think about this. Something was strange about that whole sequence of events back then in 1961. Unless the world just intent on committing suicide. So in 1961, the Tsar Bomba. 1962, the first casino in the United Kingdom. I always see the sight of casinos as a sign of corruption, as a sign of negative predatory capitalist actions. 1963, they had the last Aldermaston March in the UK, which was protesting nuclear weapons proliferation. In 1964, the Vietnam War was accelerated, basically started for the United States. I believe we were actually being butchered from 1964 to 1970. Who cares about Vietnam and what they do there? As long as they aren't threatening you, there's no point to bother with them. There's not that much money in it. I think it was set up as a sort of distraction to get the people of the United States to stop paying attention to other parts of the earth. Now this, for better or for worse, who knows? I've been under attack lately in the United States. When I go to the doctors, I've been injected and tortured on 2 times, once in 2001, another in 2004. And just recently I went to a clinic in California. That was in 2012, and I believe they're trying to play the same game. Although who knows? They've harmed me irrevocably. I cannot sue due to the statute of limitations. Let's talk about mind control and what happens in the fascist dictatorial state that we have now, dictatorial state which we have. We have fascism, which is basically a war-type ideology. We also have a dictatorship, meaning going to the polls is almost a joke. You're voting for the grin who wants to be elected. The person who really runs it is in the federal buildings. In every city, they're hooked into Washington, D.C., in the federal government there. And whoever controls them, both nationally and internationally, most likely through money and bribery and or mind control. Mind control. That is a very interesting thing. Imagine people being killed. I thought I got on a plane, but I got in a box. That could have happened very easily. The FDIC Act of 1991 allowed the butchering of banks. In 1999, the Financial Services Modernization Act. That was put to work the FDIC that same year. I believe I brought special skills, as they were very nervous when I came in. Special skills or special apparatus, possibly from military stuff, who knows? I don't know. I was on the USS Reed FFG-30, the Dyer as I call it. I believe something happened outside of San Clemente Island in 1983. It was right after the Falkland Islands War in 1983, and I believe someone dumped something, or they did something out in the Pacific Ocean, which is the San Clemente Island is just off of Los Angeles, right out of Orange County. But we were going out in the deep. We were going back and forth, back and forth. I've talked about this on other posts. Google search Mobile Audit Club. See all my website, all my recent posts here on YouTube. And I wish you well, and if this is mind control, what you going to do about it? What you going to do about it? End this loop. This is Kurt Brown, 80 Cent Rambone, Mobile Audit Club, Mobile Audit Club, Mobile Audit Club. Who's this guy? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Mobile Audit Club, Mobile Audit Club, Mobile Audit Club.